who lives in the same institution that Roy lives in.
Oh.
And her name's Pippa. And she comes over with Roy a lot. And
And she looks for things to do, you know?
Yeah,
she speaks with the same accent as you guys almost, you know? Like she's got a very proper, not English or British accent,
Yeah.
but sort of proper English.
Yeah, she
You know?
talks well.
She uses bigger words and
well,
less
because she
slang.
come from a good background.
That's right, yeah. Her
Yeah.
dad was a professor. And
Yeah,
she actually did work for her mother, but Roy was saying that when she was in school, people used to tease her incessantly, you know, just really, I guess when you kids see a weakness in somebody, hey, they go
Yeah.
for it, you know.
But I don't know what her problem is. I mean, she
No.
seems to be normal and very polite when you talk to her. If I go out, you know, she'll talk to her for a few minutes, and
yeah,
she's very, very polite.
I like talking to her because she always sort of lifts you up. With Roy, it's just sort of we're slugging back and forth like a couple guys. But with her, I'll say something like, Pip, do you think we should plant these over there? Oh, that would be a really nice idea. You know, like just the way she does it, it's so pleasant, you know, it's funny. Like Roy, if you said that, he was like, yeah, sure. you
Oh,
know?
okay.
Yeah, exactly, you know.
Okay, we've got stuff to do.
got to go for gas?
You going up to Costco for your gas?
No,
That's where we're going tomorrow.
are
Are
you?
you?
Yeah, and we're going up there to see the new bakery that opens,
Where's that?
right up near the Costco gas on Hunt Club.
It's called
Oh.
Panera. Have you heard of it?
No,
I'll show you the card.
Well, do you have a Costco card then?
Yeah.
Oh, then
Do you want to borrow it?
No,
No,
I have
you
a
got it,
Costco
Costco.
card. Yeah.
now just hang on a sec, I'm trying to think what I've got to do.
Nothing.
Well, let's see now.
Just go and put my boots on,
And your coat.
and my coat and my gloves.
We could bring that all up here. you know.
No, you just had your floors done.
Oh, well, Sparky will be in, they'll all be dirty tomorrow, so what can you do?
Well, I'm glad you're finally resigning yourself to that, Mom.
Oh, good lady.
Kenny will wait.
Yeah, right. Every time Stephanie does the stove, she's saying, Ken, look at this. Now try and keep it this way, okay? Yeah, right. That'll happen.
That was nice of blue. I enjoyed it. It was
Yeah, it was. It's kinda nice when we don't have the other ones being encumbered by the other.
That's right, yeah.
Patrick was gonna come today, but Terry's sick and he says, I'm looking after my father.
Oh,
Terry's got a really bad cold, but he's got asthma, and when he gets a cold, his asthma bothers him.
Panera, grand opening. And here, I can't see because my glasses.
Here's
I think
Somewhere
that
says
was
first 100,
mine.
250 people get a free mug.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
those are yours.
I'm dragging Mum out of bed and we both
And
want to
this
get a
one, yeah, I
mug.
bought 3 books.
And 2 weeks of free coffee.
No, we played some nice tunes today.
Was that?
We played some nice tunes today.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
We could
Consistent.
practice that, pick yourself up and really get
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, we could.
Except in your own kitchen.
I
Yeah,
stumble
we fun
over,
tune.
yeah, I stumble over a lot of the stuff because I haven't played it lately.
A bit of practice, you know.
Sure. Well, that's what we're here for.
Well, Bobby doesn't
Yeah.
do exactly as you tell him.
Yeah.
Get him up on.
No, no, I'm saying, I think you're looking great.
And you
Well,
have
that's good, I'm glad to hear that because,
It's so quiet. You know, I feel terrible
anyway,
times,
you're
but
sounding good at Great Jazz too, gee.
do you think
I
that?
think it really helps that line a lot, you know.
Yeah.
John Mitchell plays like everything Dixieland,
Yeah.
even a nice tune, he plays it that jerky way,
Yeah.
you know.
But,
But,
We'll see if I'll make a difference or if I can cut the chops to do it,
well,
but it's fun. I've got to do something. Especially playing wise, you know.
me too. I don't do much of anything else. Well, I walk up to Carlingwood every morning.
walked around the block yesterday,
Yeah,
ate my breakfast,
maybe that's why I'm so,
give me shit.
so
Why?
I'm not doing enough.
Nice work.
Get out of the way now, Sparky.
You navigate those routes better than my computer does. My computer back there,
Oh, really?
sometimes it catches on news.
I'm gonna have to get some
Another step.
duct tape that thing down until I get something to fit it properly.
All right.
It had glass in there one time and got broken.
Put Bobby shoes on. See if he can get his foot into yours. Now, should I push it like that?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll put it on the floor.
My shoes not a rather dirty.
Hard to get out of the way. And back here.
Does this help?
No, it's,
Yeah. But for the other one, would that help?
well, it would help, but I've been doing not too badly with it lately.
Something already, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Pretty sharp cut.
Look what he's doing, he knows,
Good.
But
it's lovely. No,
You-
seriously.
You wonder what he knows, you know?
He seems to know that I have difficulties. I mean, he's not
Yeah, he's not all excited and jumping up.
right.
that's right. You're a good lad. We like him. It's good, good up the
It
eyes.
says March of the gold.
He's got lovely eyes. You're absolutely right.
You do this up?
Yes, sir.
Do them all up?
Yeah,
Just talk to.
talk to him.
So, you work on picking yourself up and I'll work on picking yourself up.
Yeah, okay.
This time, you.
Yeah.
Just you.
And then when any of the others come to hear us, it would be so good.
That's,
They'll be, you'd be saying, Uncle.
well, let's see, dance
What's
into
Mark?
that, dance into that, keep it doing. Oh, thanks a lot.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane.
Thanks for another one.
Always help me out.
So maybe.
All right.
It is,
Don't stop coming. Want the deck lid on?
yes. Thank you, Jane. Well, I can leave it for Dan.
You
I'll
decide.
see what Anne's doing. She said it's from Wednesday to Wednesday.
Maybe she'd like to come over and talk with us?
Well,
Yeah. walking.
I think I'll stay here
Walking.
unless you're going someplace after.
Yeah, canoe for kids race. Community game.
What?
2 hours, so I'll go up there every now and again. Woo-hoo! Geez, I opened the garage door and realized the car's on the street.
Oh. Sparky? Sparky, what's the matter with you? Hey? What's the matter with you? Wanna go out?
Well, good news, you can sleep in and not miss a single minute of the action. With Rogers On Demand Channel 100, you can catch up on CBC's coverage.
Here they are.
Yeah, you're right. There is the Prime Minister and Jim Flaherty heading down. They'll stop at the bottom of the stairs, give photographers a chance for one picture before they head into the House of Commons. There it is, the same budget that you saw Evan flashing in front of the cameras. But as Evan mentioned, these are the rules, and all the news agencies sign on to those. That they can't reveal what's in the budget until the minister himself rises on at his seat in the House of Commons. Many reporters have been in what's called the lockup throughout today, where they are briefed by finance department officials, and they take in with them their own economic advisors, different news agencies, to go through the budget and get a good sense of not only what it says, but what it means. And that's the critical part of the next hour, because you're gonna hear a lot of variations on that. You'll hear from the government on what it says the budget means, you'll hear from the opposition, and you'll hear from independent economic analysts, and you'll hear from journalists as well. Evan will, of course, have his thoughts on it. Amanda Lang will be joining us as well, our senior business correspondent. Terry Moletsky has been inside the lockout, and he will have ready to present just moments from now, when Flaherty stands on his feet in the House of Commons to present the budget. He will have a review of what the main topics are in the budget and how they will affect you, because that's what we're trying to do in this next hour, is break down the big words in the budget to what it means to you at home. This is supposed to be a consumer-driven budget. That's what the government has been telling us all along. So many of the things that are in it should have an impact on you. But there has been this talk of the last couple of weeks that this really is just a setup budget for next year. Next year is an election year, 2015, and will the Conservatives save their best budget initiatives for their final budget before an election? We're going to know the answers to those kind of questions in the next couple of minutes. We're also going to know whether or not there are any surprises. So Evan says lots of things have leaked in the last few days. Deliberate leaks, strategic leaks on the part of the government. Jim Flaherty, in fact, was going around giving interviews on the weekend, giving a good sense of the areas that would be covered in the budget. But often there are things that aren't mentioned, sometimes for deliberate reasons. We're about to find out whether or not that's the case coming up in the next months. Let's just take a peek inside the House of Commons as we're waiting for the Speaker to recognize the Finance Minister. As you can see, they're just getting things organized there. And when the Finance Minister rises to his feet, we will immediately go to Terry Moletsky, who is standing by ready to give us the details that are in today's budget. But nobody seems to be in a hurry in there right now. We'll keep that up. As soon as we see Jim Flaherty, we will go, of course, to the floor of the House of Commons, hear his first couple of words, and then bingo, we're into reaction on what's in the budget. CBC's senior business correspondent, Amanda Lang, is here with me as well in studio. You know, you've heard all the rumors, you've heard all the leaks.
Yeah.
What's your sense going into this?
I mean, I think it's safe to say it's going to be what they call a stay the course budget. We were talking about possible surprises. We could see a possible surprise on the fiscal outlook. Are we going to get into surplus sooner than we thought? Will it be bigger than we thought? One thing to be mindful of, and we'll watch when we get the numbers, is a lot of the big stuff they announced last year only comes into effect this year. So the $1 billion for aerospace, nearly $1 billion for Ontario's economy, only starts in April of this year. Will they reissue that? So we have to be careful of some of the numbers we see to make sure we're not kind of re-reporting the good news we already knew.
The big scare on the economic front over these past few months has been the rise in the employment numbers. It came down a little bit last week, but it's still at 7%, and 7's not a nice number. Governments want to see it beneath 7%. So this budget will be looked at closely in regards to what it may do about jobs. Looks like when they're standing clapping, it usually means that's the government side on over there. And let's just dip in once again to see, listen to the Speaker here. Now, they're in a delay mode again. There's a point of order going on here. But the other focus, Amanda, on jobs specifically is jobs for young people.
Young people, absolutely. There will be spending on that. Remember, there was some sizable spending last year as well. I went back and checked, $70 million, not nothing, on internships. Can they actually do anything, whether it's for young people or the broader economy, to really stimulate jobs is going to be the most closely watched question. Because as you say, it's what people are most worried about. We feel it. We feel there's some softness setting in. The U.S. is picking up. Why aren't we following? So that's what we're watching.
And you had the Finance Minister on the weekend in a couple of interviews, including the one with Chris Hall, basically admit that he is very concerned about the youth unemployment numbers.
Yeah.
And that's, and you wouldn't say that unless you had something in this budget directly on that.
Right. He's definitely setting us up for that. And I'll tell you something else that I'm going to be watching closely is what is there to kickstart export businesses, because we haven't seen that part of our economy recover. I know Stephen Poloz is really worried about it. We need to see that grow, and that is a big source of jobs too.
All right. So here we go. They're going through this. This is the process that happens in the House of Commons every day, where the Speaker recognizes different motions that are at play in the House, questions of privilege, questions of order. Let's see which one he's on now.
Move that the House approve in general the budgetary policy of the government. The Honorable Minister of Finance.
There we go. And there he's on his feet. Minister of Finance, Jim Flaherty. So let's go right now to Terry Molesky, our senior parliamentary correspondent, who's got the details of what's in the budget right now. Terry.
Well, Peter, the headline here is that, depending on how you read it, the deficit is effectively gone. Not next year, this year. It's actually gone if you want to read it that way. But the government will not say that. What I mean is that the deficit is officially projected for the coming year at just under $3 billion, $2.9 billion. But of course, remember, there's always a contingency fund, which happens to be, guess what, $3 billion. So if you count that, then the budget is balanced already. But the government doesn't count it. It's waiting on that. It won't call it balanced until next year's election.
We're not quite there yet, but we're almost there.
The government says the deficit has dropped sharply from $55 billion at the height of the recession in 2009 to $16.6 billion last year, and a projected $2.9 billion for the coming year, 2014-15. And it says we'll finally see a surplus of $6.4 billion in 2015-16, just in time for an election. So if you include the government's $3 billion rainy day fund, then the budget is already balanced. But officially it's excluded. They're saving the big moment for next year. Why not just admit you've been beaten the deficit and retire happy?
Yes, you're right. If you do the arithmetic, we could have had a budget that's balanced by $100,000 out of a $75 or $76 billion budget, which is really not significant. So I prefer to have a nice clean surplus next year.
Balanced or not, Flaherty's budget does scatter money across a wide range of programs. $1.5 billion for scientific research, $500 million for the auto sector, $300 million for food safety, $305 million for rural broadband, $391 million for Parks Canada, and $378 million for bridges in Montreal. So, where does all that money come from? It's not new money, it's repurposed. For example, defense spending is being delayed a lot. That means spending on new ships and planes is dropping sharply, down $600 million a year for last year and this year, and down another $1 billion a year in 2015 and 2016. That means that all told, the government now plans to spend $4 billion less on defense than it said it would 6 years ago.
But there's no point in having money sitting there when they can't spend it this year, which they can't.
There are also a couple of things not in the budget. There is no mention of the balanced budget legislation promised in the throne speech. There is also a missing explanation. The budget promises legislation to prohibit unjustified cross-border price discrimination, unquote. But there's no clue given as to how that would work in practice.
This is properly the purview, in our view, of the Competition Bureau. They will need statutory authority to act.
Well, now the title on the budget, of course, is The Road to Balance, Creating Jobs and Opportunities. And there is a lot in here about jobs. Jobs for young people, jobs for seniors, jobs for immigrants, jobs for everybody. But what about that word balance? Not there. And there may be another reason, Peter, why the government doesn't want to call the budget balanced, because, of course, the Conservatives have promised that when the budget is balanced, they will bring in income splitting, which is a huge and very expensive tax break, which could cost the Treasury about $2 billion a year. So maybe it's better to call it a deficit, real or not, and save the big tax break for an election year. Peter.
All right, Terry, that's good. Let me just ask you one quick thing on the income splitting issue, because it's very controversial, but it's also a potential vote getter. When Flaherty was at the microphone, did he say anything about it in terms of next year? Did it come up at all?
No, he did not, but the government has said in the past that it's committed to that. He wasn't asked about that because we're all taking that commitment to be real. So that may be, as I say, one more reason why they don't want to call it balanced, because that could be a very expensive statement to make.
And going by what you just reported, in terms of today, the big loser out of today is the Defense Department.
Yeah,
They sound like they're paying for everything.
Oh, absolutely right. What they're saying is, oh, no, we haven't cut defense. We've just pushed that spending into the future. Well, they pushed it a long way into the future, and they haven't said when that money is going to come back. They say it will, but at the moment they're not budgeting the same amount of money that they were budgeting. So they've taken a good $4 billion out of defense, depending on how you do the numbers, counting what they took out last year and this year. It's a lot of money, and the reason is that they don't have the ships and planes to buy, and that's what Flaherty meant when he said that, well, there's no point in having the money sitting there. So they've taken it back from the Defense Department, saying, well, the ships aren't ready to buy, and the planes aren't there, so we're taking that money back until you get them.
You know, you spent a lot of time in the last couple of years working on some of those purchase contracts for defense. Any specifics on where the losers are, if they're gonna be down $4 billion in the short term?
Well, you can forget new joint support ships, Arctic offshore patrol ships, the new icebreaker, the Diefenbaker's got a name, but it doesn't have a budget. And I would also include the F-35 decision. Excuse me, I'm supposed to say fighters, as though there is not a decision to buy the F-35. That probably may be fiction, but anyway, that's the official speak. But on both of those fronts, ships and planes in particular, the government seems to have decided, look, it's just taking too long. The Defense Department can't just sit on this money when we haven't built the ships yet. And we may not build those ships for a very long time to come. And as long as the F-35 remains mired in a lot of technological and cost problems, and we still haven't even officially decided whether we're going to have a formal competition between the F-35 and the Dassault Rafale and the Eurofighter and Boeing's Super Hornet. It's very complicated, and those decisions have not been made. So why commit the money?
All right, leave it at that. Terry, thanks very much, great work. Terry Malevsky, reporting on what was actually in the budget. We're 2 minutes away, roughly, from the first of the opposition parties starting to make their reaction to the budget. Time to check in with Amanda, first of all, in terms of what she saw in there that fascinates her.
You know, and I'm seeing commentary already calling this the freebies budget. It's full of stuff that doesn't cost a thing, feel-good stuff. There'll be legislation on pricing of goods that are priced differently in America versus Canada. As Terry said, a lot of repurposed stuff. We're getting details on infrastructure spending, so we know that $300 million will go to Montreal bridges, a St. Lawrence bridge, so there's some specifics, but nothing really that I'm seeing jumping out on youth employment. An expansion of the existing apprenticeship program, that's great, but we're not seeing much the specific.
All right, let's go back to the lobby outside the House of Commons. Tom Mulcair, the leader of the NDP, the official opposition leader, his reaction.
As leader of the official opposition, it's usually an arduous exercise where you try to retain a great many facts about the important announcements in a budget and try to also see what your party has been looking for that might not be there. I have to admit that it was rather easier this time around because there's simply not very much in this budget. Je dois vous avouer que c'est un budget sans trop de substance. On peut quand même se permettre de faire remarquer que les jeunes qui cherchent un emploi,
it's a budget without any substance.
Simple, clair.
But nonetheless, I want to point out to you
ce cercle vicieux, pas d'expérience, pas d'emploi, pas d'emploi, pas d'expérience. Il y a 260 000 jeunes qui cherchent un emploi au Canada de nos jours. Il y a au total 300 000 personnes de plus sans emploi aujourd'hui par rapport au début de la crise en 2008 qui n'ont fait rien pour eux autres. There are 300,000 more Canadians looking for work today than there were in 2008 when the crisis hit. In particular, Canada has a total of 260,000 young people looking for a job. They would have liked to have seen something like a hiring tax credit in this budget, something we've been talking about for a long time. There's really not much in there. Veterans are also going to be very disappointed. The $105 million cut that's been announced is being maintained. So we're going to see that those 12 offices remain shut. The brave men and women who represented and fought for our country are not going to be recognized. They're not going to be properly taken care of. Les anciens combattants seront particulièrement lésés par ce budget parce qu'on ne fait rien pour restaurer les fonds qui ont été coupés. Il y a quand même du bon.
But there is something good. We are at least indicating that there's about $100 million that are going to be used for broadband and for rural areas. After all, this is something equivalent to electrifying rural areas in the 50s, because we'd like to see all areas to be with broadband. That's good.
Are being announced to bring internet into rural regions. Again, many a slip between cup and lip. We'll see whether or not the Conservatives are actually going to do it, but that's a good thing. Again, the $1.2 billion announced on Friday for First Nations education is there. We're happy to see that being announced. But it's only being announced for 2016. So again, that'll be after the next election. We're
So
quite
they teach
concerned
you how
about
to
the
play
way
it?
Conservatives do things like this. They're making
they
this
teach you how
announcement
to play
about
it?
what's going to happen sometime in the future. It's a good idea. We're not going to speak against something that we've asked for. Now, there is one thing that's particularly ironic. You've heard us time and again talk about the safety and the types of systems we put in place, these so-called
I thought it
SMS
was a little
systems,
one.
self-management systems, where
just like my other one.
from railroads to companies
just like my other
processing
one.
food are allowed to simply send in a form where they say whether or not they're doing a job of protecting the public. Well, lo and behold, after cutting hundreds of jobs and hundreds of millions of dollars in food inspection in Canada,
Oh,
the
this
Conservatives
is it.
say They will be hiring hundreds of food inspectors and spending hundreds of millions of dollars on food inspection. Now, I'm actually happy that they've gotten back to the business of protecting the public, and it's never too late to do the right thing.